All right, Robert, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Is it still affordable to retire here in Canada?
Well, if you're a property owner, you're way better off than if you're not.
So, do you mean that some of our real estate chat viewers who have subscribed are house rich, but they might be cash poor?
I do mean that. But
All right.
if you've got that asset, now you've got something that you can play with.
And what you mean by that is what we're going to be talking about on this episode of Real Estate Chat with
Chandra Perez.
and Robert E. So, jumping right away into it because we love these articles that Roberts gives us. It's from FP Post Haste. Many cash poor but real estate rich Canadians, especially the retired ones, are averse or they are shying away or not wanting to tap into their largest asset to fund a money shortfall after they have stopped working. So you retired, you stopped working, you need money, but you don't want to tap into your biggest asset, which is your house. This was a report commissioned by the Canadian Foundation for Financial Planning, surveyed 1,200 people, 18 to 99 years old. So I don't know what the 18-year-olds are doing there, but anyway, they found that 42% of retired people in the study group, I guess they segmented that part of it, felt uncomfortable accessing home equity to increase their income and standard of living, ranging from lack of knowledge about products, emotional attachment to where they live. So you're living somewhere, you don't want to turn that into your piggy bank, pretty much, right? So we're going to link to this, but Robert brought up this interesting part of this here is that of the six options presented in the research paper, almost 50% ranked sell and downsize as the preferred option. 20% chose HELOCs, home equity line of credits. 15% selected a reverse mortgage. 11% selected renting a portion of their home. So, Robert, with inflation rising to pretty scary amounts, interest rates rising and potentially rising some more, right around the corner is the next Bank of Canada decision to do that. Home prices haven't really plummeted. I mean, they're pretty steady despite the bumps up and down along the way. Majority are, or there are many that are looking to get into retirement. So, Robert, what's your advice to our real estate chat viewers who are in this phase or in this process of their life where perhaps the kids have moved out, perhaps they've enjoyed living in their large home as a lifestyle, but now, they realize, I don't want to keep cleaning and mowing the lawn and, you know, shoveling the snow in the upcoming winter. What do I do next? I've retired. Maybe I get a bit of a pension or a little bit of income, but I have no mortgage. I've got a ton of money in my house. What do I do next, Robert?
Well, they were thinking about this from the very first day, and they were thinking about it a lot from the time they had a child, and they were thinking about it even more the day they burned their mortgage and it was all paid off. And as soon as the prices started to go up, like let's say somebody bought it for 30,000, somebody else bought it for 300,000, somebody else bought it for 600,000, same property, and now it's worth 3 or 4 times what the original purchase price was. So now they have an asset, and they probably have some savings as well. That when the mortgage got to be very small relative to their income in the last 1/3 of their working life, they probably salted some of that away into other types of vehicles. So, it might be in a savings account, it might be in a GIC, it might be in stocks, it might be in bonds, it might be in their grandmother's gold. Who knows where the money is? So, they asked the financial planners, who are the people who consider the home to be not part of the asset mix that they administer because they don't have anything to do with it. If you have surplus funds after you satisfied your needs and wants monthly, then you invest it or yearly. You invest it with them, and they allocate it so that some will come out in 15 years, some will come out in 20 years, some will come out in 35 years, some will come out never. And so, there's basic family planning. So this article talks to people who do own a house, and how do they feel about, what a question, how do you feel about having to dig into your equity to pay your expenses? So the people say, well, I'm not really going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sell the house now, and the kids all live in Bobcaygeon. So we're going to move up to Bobcaygeon, and I can buy one there for half the money. And so I'll have half the money in cash, and I can live on that, and I'll still have this house that I bought up there for a lower price. So everything will be fine. Sell and downsize. It's actually a financial upgrade, but everybody calls it downsize. Or you can stay in place and refinance it in a number of different ways. Now, if you don't have an income, it's hard to get a regular mortgage, but you can get a home equity line of credit where you go to the bank and you say, okay, I've got $250,000 worth of equity in this property, or $1.7 million worth of equity. I'd like to get a line of credit for up to about 50% of that. And we won't use it all, but I'd like to have the facility that I can borrow. And so they do that. Other people get a reverse mortgage. You see it all over TV, which is a higher rate of interest, but you don't have any payments unless you want there to be payments. And you stay in the house and it's yours. You pay the taxes, you pay the maintenance and everything like that. But it's a reverse compounding. So it really builds up quick. And the rate is a little bit higher than what you're used to for a conventional mortgage. But for certain people in certain circumstances, if they know they want to just get over a tough 8, 5, 7, whatever it is years, it can be a vehicle, and you have to pay an arranging fee and you have to pay a discharge fee at the end. But it's for an intended segment of the population. For some reason, or sometimes your pension plan blows up. You invest it with somebody and they blow up and the money's not there anymore. A lot of people are disappointed in the stock market when it all of a sudden wasn't worth what it was. You're in a highly leveraged thing and that blows up. Or you put it into sure thing crypto and it blows up. All kinds of vehicles blow up. But your house did. Your house stood there and it gave you the benefit of inflation because it went up as a tangible asset through the whole time. And you got to live there. And you get to live there for the longest time after your mortgage retires. So again, 50% of the people said, well, I would just sell and move. Another 20% said, I'd put a home equity line of credit on here, and then you just go in and out, and I get a bonus or I get a payout, or my grandma's going to die, and so I'm going to get some money, I'll pay it off then. People are flexible, or a reverse mortgage, and other people said, well, I'll put a basement apartment in, and they can pay for all the maintenance, and I'll just live on half of that. So there's lots of things you can do. There's absolutely nothing new in this report by this financial planning group, and the application of what they didn't find out from their survey of people who may or may not own a house confirms what people who do own a house already know and already had planned and already thought of a lot of times. But it's a free article that somebody got to write.
Well, it's very interesting. I think before we conclude this episode, and if you're watching this, and if you have any questions with any of these options, reverse mortgage being one of, I guess, the most intriguing ones. And I think, Robert, we should do an episode purely dedicated to reverse mortgages. But before we wrap up this episode, Robert, how do our real estate chat viewers protect themselves in any of these options? So, for example, in this current market, I mean, many of our real estate chat viewers who are probably retired and have paid down mortgages, who have home equity line of credits, or any of these facilities, they likely won't be hit by, like, let's say the prices went down 10, 20%. I mean, that's extreme, but they probably won't be in a situation where that will lead them to suffering. But let's say somebody who is of the age of retirement, who still has a mortgage, but they're not in a position where they want, either they don't want to work anymore, or they're in a position where, maybe we got to slow things down. If something were to happen to the market that puts them in a very sensitive position with the valuation of their property, how do we protect against that? Like, do we have to accept the fact, or do they have to accept the fact that, let's just say we have to sell it and right size, we'll use the term right size to minimize that impact, when there's uncertainty of where values might lie 2, 3, 5, or 10 years from now, and you're in the age where you can't afford a financial blunder?
Okay. Well, this is a retirement age, they say, is 65. Some are younger, some are 75, some are 85. My mother stayed in her house till she was 85. So at the time I came up with the phrase, 85 is the new 65, that you can still do the things that you used to do when 65 was old, and drive a car, and you do everything, and everything's the same, and you got pension from work, and you have pension from government, you got all kinds of things. You can probably operate pretty well without $2,000 a month house payment of one kind or another. So everybody who is in the situation we're describing has already thought about these things 16 times in the last 16 years. And they probably have an advisor that said, okay, we're going to do this for this reason, this for this reason, and this for this reason. And if you got some mad money, we can put it in this if you want. And so if you own a house, you've got that as your emergency backup plan, that you can always sell the house and start renting something. But if you're sitting on $750,000, it's you got more flexibility. If you're sitting on $1.7 million, you got a lot more flexibility. And even if you're sitting on $200,000 because you bought it in 2010 and it went up some, and put a home relocate or a HELOC on it, and now you got to sell it because there's not enough equity in there, but you still probably have enough to live for a little while and you can reestablish yourself. So it's not terrible. But the key building block of your financial plan is to buy a house as soon as you can. And it's always been that way.
So I guess we should reframe this for our younger viewers, in fact, is that if you're seeing these headlines and if you're thinking, I hope you're thinking that far into the future enough, and you don't want to be retired and broke, you've got to get into real estate. First of all, know your budget, do what's right.
You got to live somewhere. You got to live somewhere. That's the primary thing.
And if you believe in where you live and that it's going to be better 10, 20, 30 years from now, great. If you don't, then you've got to move somewhere where you believe that you can create a life for yourself, your family. So we'd love to hear from you at what stage of your life you're in and what your current strategy is when it comes to real estate. Younger Real Estate Chat viewers, I know this isn't TikTok or Instagram, but make sure you subscribe too, and you'll learn some tips about accumulating and building real estate wealth along the way from our community. And thank you for watching this episode of Real Estate Chat. We'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye for now.
See you next time.